It's a Tisha B'Av morning now, and I'm back from davening, and figured I would just continue going along with the Gemara. We're learning the Gemara in Gittin on Daf Nun Vav and Aleph. It's the story of the Churban. We're dealing with the story of the Churban Beis HaMikdash, which started out with Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. Went into the story of the Churban that was refused to have been brought. Then the story of Nero Caesar, and then Vespasian Caesar, and then we learned about the three wealthy people in Yerushalayim that were supporting Yerushalayim with all of their wheat and barley and the basic provisions. We learned why their names were what they were, and then we got up to the fact that there was a faction of Biryonim in Yerushalayim at the time, a faction of these ruffians, these rabble rouser people that were there at the time. So let's go on with this. So Havu Buhu Hanu Biryoni, there was this group of Biryonim that were there. Amruluhu Rabbanon, they would say to them, to the Rabbanon, the Rabbanon would say to them, Nepuk v'navid shalma b'hadayhu. Let's go make peace with the Romans. In other words, the Rabbanon were of the opinion, meaning the Chazal, the people, the Tanaim that were there at the time. So they were of the opinion that we should go out and negotiate with Romans and speak to them, and perhaps try to explain to them maybe what happened, and explain to them that this person was a person who, this is like what's happened to Klal Yisrael throughout history. Many times there have been situations of persecutions against Klal Yisrael, and it's generally not been our way to fight. So Chazal they wanted to go negotiate. Let's go talk to them. Lo shafkinu. So the Biryonim wouldn't let them. Right. So there were these people that were there, these rough guys. And they wouldn't let them. They wouldn't let Chazal go ahead and talk and open up lines of communication with the Romans. They're going to see to such a degree that they had to go through this big subterfuge in order to get somebody out, in order to negotiate with Yochanan to get him out. So let's see. So they said, no, on the contrary, let's go make war with them. We want to make war. We want to fight. They wanted to take up arms and make resistance. Amruhu Rabbanon lo mistayim milsa. The Chazal said, no, you're not going to be matzliach. You will not be successful. Now again, I don't know if it means that they knew this with Ruach HaKodesh, or they knew it just because of their political acumen, and they understood the situation in a better way. But Chazal said to them, you're not going to be victorious. Lo mistayim milsa. Rashi says lenatzeach. You're not going to win this battle against them. Kamu kalnu lahanu ambari dechiti visari v'havi kafna. So what they did is, these people, so there was basically like a stalemate. There was a stalemate between the Rabbanon, who wanted to talk, who wanted to negotiate with the Romans, and these Biryonim who were apparently in a position to prevent the Rabbanon even from leaving, as we're going to see soon. And they wanted to make war. And Chazal, the Rabbanon were saying, no, it's not going to work. So they forced the matter. They forced the issue. And I guess for some reason they felt, the Biryonim felt, that they needed the support of the populace. Again, I don't know all the details, historically speaking, what happened over here. But it seems that this faction of people wanted to build popular support. So what they went ahead and did is they created their own crisis. Literally, they created their own crisis. Kalnu lahanu ambari dechiti visari. So they went ahead and they burned down this. There was 21 years worth of wheat and barley that had been available. Right, if you recall, we spoke about that last time. So the have kafna, and now there was a famine. They burnt it down. They burnt down the storehouses. They literally forced the humanitarian crisis. Right, sounds familiar. It's like unbelievable the way Rishayim operate in every generation. Unfortunately, these Rishayim were our own. But they forced the humanitarian crisis, and they thought that would galvanize support to make a war. Now that the Romans are holding them hostage, they're holding them by siege, and they can't. Now there's no food, and they're not letting any food in, etc. It's a crisis. So we'll see. Let's see what happened. But meanwhile, they're the ones who really caused the terrible tzara on Klal Yisrael at the time. Okay, so now the Gemara is going to tell us different stories just to describe the severity of the famine, the devastation of the famine that took place at the time, again caused by our own people, caused by other Jews, the Biryonim, this group of people. Marta Bas Baitus Asirta Yerushalayim Havia. So there was a woman by the name of Marta Bas Baitus, and she was from the wealthiest women in Yerushalayim. Shadrasa l'shlucha v'amralei. So she sent out to her agent, to her shliach, and said to them, Zil aisili samida, go bring me bread of the finest flour. This is a famous story. It's like, again, it's I'm sure Emes Navito, but there's a lot deeper stuff going on behind here. But there's also a very famous parable for a person. We'll see. Let's see what happens. Zil aisili samida, go bring for me fine flour. Ada Azil Isbin. So by the time the agent got to the marketplace, all the finest flour had been sold already because things were running out. Asa, so he came back empty-handed. Asa Amarlei Smida Leka Chivrasaika. So there's no fine flour, but there is white flour. Amarlei Azil, okay, go get it. Ada Azil Isbin, until he got there, it was sold. Yeah, Asa Amarla. So he came back and he said, "You're empty-handed. There's coarse bread over there. There's no white bread anymore. There's coarse bread. Until he got there, it was sold. Also, there's barley flour. They don't even have this coarse wheat anymore. Now there's only barley. Until he got there, it was sold. Have a shlifa masani." I'm sorry, that was it. So from that point, okay, obviously there's, why didn't he just buy it each time and this, and like I said, there's always, deeper perushim here. The mashal over here, the parable that this is used for is that, that a person sometimes is better off, doing what they may consider settling, but like a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Or in this case, when if a person doesn't settle for something that's available, so then they end up with nothing. Okay, but the Gemara here continues. So she went out herself now in order to try to get herself bread. So Havishalfi Misane. So even though she was barefoot, she said, "Omra epok va'achzi." I'm going to go see what's going on there. If I could go find something to eat. So here's this woman, picture this very pampered woman. She stayed at home. She didn't even have to wear shoes because she never walked around outside. Literally living in the lap of luxury. She has a person, an agent that goes out for her to buy stuff for her and do whatever it is that she needs. And now she says, I'm going to go out and see if I get something, find something to eat for myself. So Aisiv lo parta de kara umesa. So when she walked outside, there was some animal excrement, some animal dung in the street, and when she stood on it, it kind of like stuck to her foot, and she died because it was like so shocking to her. It was such a she was such a pampered woman, such a din, as we say in Hebrew, such a delicate person, that coming into contact with something of such filth was so beneath her that she actually died. Kariyale Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says this is what's referred to in the pasuk in the Tochacha, which we're going to learn in another few weeks. Haraka b'chov ha'anuga asher lo nasaso kaf ragla. So the pampered and the delicate among you, whose foot has never ventured forth, is going to suffer, and this was a kiyum of that. This was, again, we're talking about during the time of the Churban bias. There was terrible tzaros for Klal Yisrael, and it was all a kiyum. It was all an actualization of everything that was predicted for us in the Tochacha that was in the Torah. So Chazal saw, when they saw certain examples of things that took place, this was obviously a famous story that happened at the time. People heard of this wealthy woman, who died from not even from hunger, but just from, as a secondary effect of it, that she went out there and she was, aghast at having to come into contact with his filth. So he said, this is what it means in the pasuk when the Torah said, "Haracha b'chava hanuga shalona so kaf ragla." So this is a fulfillment of that. So that. So okay. Ikeda Amri. There are those that say, "Grogeres Rabbi Tzadok achla v'istanisa umeisa," that she ate. That this is not what happened. She died in a different way. Another way that had to do with her level of dignity, feeling being violated, but in a different way. But she ate the dried figs of Rav Tzadok which we'll see what that is in a second. Rav Tzadok had particular type of dried figs. She ate them. V'istanisa, she became like nauseated. She became revolted at the fact that she ate this. Umesa, and she died. In other words, she because of the famine, she was brought to a point that she had to eat something that was way beneath her. Beneath her stature, beneath what she was used to, and it repulsed her to such an effect that she died. Okay, so what are we talking about here? What are these figs of Rabbi Tzadok that this person ate and died as a result? The Rabbi Tzadok Yosef Arba'in Shnin Batanisa. Listen to this. Rabbi Tzadok was a tzaddik who lived in Yerushalayim. And he knew Beruach HaKodesh, or he just sensed based on what was going on, and he had a feeling for what was happening in the times, that the Churban was imminent, that Hashem was getting fed up with Klal Yisrael, fed up with our Averas, and fed up with the way we were treating each other, and it was time for us to get a patch. And Yosef Arba'in Shnin Batanisa, he sat for 40 years and fasted. The Gemara is going to describe to us how he survived and how he became healed afterwards. But he was a person who afflicted himself for 40 years in order to push off the Churban, so that Yerushalayim should not be destroyed. Okay. He became so gaunt, he became so so emaciated. When he would eat something, it would be like visible from the outside, going into his system, because he became so frail and so gaunt. Okay, so how did he become healed? How did he become better? So when it was time for him to get better again, Maisi le grogeres. They brought him like a fig, maitz maihu v'shadilahu, so that he would he couldn't eat anything at that point. This is like the refeeding process where we're like getting nourishment back to him. I'm sure we're all aware that there were people that in the Holocaust that had been starving, and when the American troops came, they gave them out chocolate and candies and things like that, and that itself killed them. Because their systems weren't able to tolerate the richness of the food, so they can't understand. So he couldn't eat anything yet at this point, Reb Tzadok. But he would hold a grogeres. They would hold like a fig by him, and he would suck on it, and he wouldn't eat any of the fig at all. But he would get a little bit of the juice. Kehavi kanicha nafshe afikta l'chol dehavad chaspa shadidasa b'shuka. Okay, 1 second. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. We're going back to Marta now. We're going back to Marta. So that was an aside about Rabbi Tzadok. I thought the Gemara continued about it here, but maybe it's going to continue at another time, which talks about it more. So the Gemara is now going back to Marta. It was just an aside explaining to us what this the fig of Rav Tzadok was referring to, the seeds were referring to. Okay. When this woman was in the process, in the throes of dying, she took her gold and her silver and she threw it out into the street. I guess maybe she became sick and delirious. She went home and she threw out all of her stuff into the street. Amra, what's this going to do for me already? What do I need this for? What's it going to help me? This is what it says in the pasuk in Yechezkel again. Prediction of what's going to be for the destruction of Klal Yisrael and the tzaros that we get for our averos. It says these words: they'll throw their money out into the streets, and kachava. That's what happened. We saw in this situation that Marta, threw her money out into the streets in fulfillment of this prophecy. Okay. So now we're going to learn about a little bit more what was happening behind the scenes in terms of the politics that was happening and what was the lines of communication between the Biryonim and the Chachamim and some of the intrigue of what was going on over there. Okay, Abba Sikra. There was a person by the name of Abba Sikra. That was his name. Reish Biryoni D'Yushalayim. He was the head of the Biryonim. Okay, so he was the head of this faction. He was the head of this group of people that was obviously staunchly against Chazal, against the Rabbanon, against doing what they were told the Torah was expecting from Klal Yisrael under these circumstances, and they wanted to fight. And in order to do so, again, they brought tremendous tzaros on Klal Yisrael by burning 21 years worth of grain that had been available. Yeah, so now their leader was this person Abba Sikra, and it turns out that he was related to one of the main members of Chazal, Bar Achte de Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai Have. He was the nephew, right, the son of the sister. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had a sister. That sister had a kid. That kid was the head of the Biryonim. Shalach lei ta betzina legaboy. So he sent to him, come meet me in secret. Come meet me in secret. Now, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sent to his nephew, through family channels, these types of things. It's amazing, right? You see, there's nothing, there's always been, back channels, secret negotiations going on behind the scenes and these types of things. So here we have two family members, an uncle and his nephew, right? One is one of the leaders of Chazal, the other one is the leader of this, rogue maverick group that's causing tremendous tzaros for Klal Yisrael. Also, so he came, so they made this meeting in secret. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to his nephew, he said to him, "Look, he's trying to talk sense into him." He said, "What are you doing over here? You're not letting us out to negotiate with the Romans, right? You're not letting us, have any other recourse. Well, we've told you already, a war is going to be completely futile. There's no way you could win against the Roman army. How long?" And now he just translate the word. How long are you going to act in this way and kill everybody by famine? Right? People are dying in starvation. How long are you going to cause this? Amar lei. So now listen to this. So his nephew, the head of the Biryonim, responds to him, "My Avid, what can I do? I'm also stuck. Di aminu humidi kataluli." Listen to this. If I say anything, they'll kill me. So you see, this is an amazing thing, because all the time people say, when you have all sorts of things that happen in Klal Yisrael. Let's take, for example, this kidnapping, which is a tremendous chilul Hashem. This kidnapping of some people, in retaliation, quote unquote, for the kidnapping of the three Bachrim that started this whole situation that we're in. Yeah, so it's people say, how come people? That's an extreme example. That nobody supported that. Nobody claimed to support it. They didn't claim that anybody supported it. Okay, but sometimes you have a situation where let's say people do things, not that extreme, but even do things in the name of the Torah or in the name of a just cause, and people say, well, how come the rabbis don't speak out against this, and how come they don't speak out against that, and how come they don't? Okay, so there's like a lot of reasons. Number one is because every meshuggah, every person who does something crazy or thinks something crazy, so anybody will ask, they'll say, yes, of course, of course it's the wrong thing to do. Of course it's wrong to burn garbage cans and hurt people and do all sorts of things and cause destruction to public property. And of course, chas v'shalom, what happened in Beit Shemesh a week or two ago, there was a chayal on Miluim, went to a shul over there, and some people trashed his car and physically accosted him. And of course, it's a rishus. Of course, it's the siddur. Of course, that's part of what's being mamshech argolos. There's no question about it, right? Okay, but now why don't all the rabbis come out and speak about all these things? Okay, so number one, first of all, it's futile. Every single time, if you ask them, that's exactly what they'll say. They'll say exactly, what I'm saying to you, now. But sometimes there's another dynamic that's going on, which again, not to the extreme that we're seeing here in the Gemara. But sometimes, there are forces at work that are prevent the right things from happening. And I don't know. It's very it's hard to say. But look what he says here. He says the amina lahu midi kataluli. If I'll do anything, they'll kill me. They'll kill me. Right. So I don't know. Amalei chazili takanta didi de epok. He said like this, so at least help me out over here. This is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai replying, and he says, at least help me out over here. He said, okay, I understand. If you can't do anything on your side, if you can't help the situation because you're in danger, so at least help me to get out. Maybe if you can help smuggle me out, if I can get out of the walls of Yerushalayim and speak to the Romans, maybe I can do something and try to save things over here. Okay, I'm going to stop this. We'll start another one because I don't want them to get too long. But again, so the idea being, we're seeing here there's a clash between the Biryonim and Rabbi Yochanan and Chazal and the Rabbanim that are there, and we see there's the secret meeting between Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai and his nephew. And his nephew is the head of the Biryonim himself, says, my hands are tied, I can't do anything, because, if I do anything, they won't listen to me anyway. And the way he says it that they'll kill me. And again, the terrible dynamics that you see in Klal Yisrael that unfortunately repeat themselves. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll continue in a minute.